Chapter 4, Betrayal. Ahem. Troy was eating breakfast in the commissary. Scrambled powdered eggs, soybean sausage, when the news came. Jack Raines burst into the room, panting for breath. It's hatched. When? Don't know. It was already hatched when Kelly had us open the storage depot. What's it look like? You won't believe me. Come see for yourself. Troy walked quickly down the narrow corridor, along with the other men who had been eating in the commissary. As they got closer to the storage depot, they began to run. Inside, they found Kelly and Tarosh and Burke and most of the men of Deep Core Station crowded around the long table in the center of the room, blocking the glass case and its inhabitant from view. Troy elbowed his way through the crowd. Let the guy who helped find it take a look, okay? Helped find it? Kelly said, and almost blew it up. You never would have gotten it out with that ultrasound. A man in front moved aside and let Troy see the hatchling. It stood almost 7 inches high and walked erect on 2 clawed feet that looked like a bird talon. It carried its long, prehensile tail, almost half its body length, straight out behind it, the way a cardinal or robin holds its feathered tail. Its head seemed huge in proportion to its tiny head, all jaws and teeth and big blinking eyes. Its forelegs appeared stunted. 2 small, shriveled arms held close to its chest. My God, Troy said. It looks just like a baby T-Rex. That's what it is, Kelly said. An infant Tyrannosaurus Rex, largest and fiercest of the land-based predators of the late Cretaceous, extinct for 65 million years, but now, thanks to the miracle of ice, alive once more to walk the earth. Nicely put, Miss Sawyer. Tarosh smiled at her. You have the soul of a poet. Anybody feed it yet? Troy asked. Some fresh leopard seal meat is being prepared right now, Kelly said. Seal meat? I thought the EPA. Killing seals for any reason is forbidden by every Antarctic treaty or declaration ever signed. Just the thought of it makes me sick. But this is an exception. Oh, I get it. The articles of the treaties and declarations must never be broken, except for an exception. Don't be a wise-ass, Darrow. Hatched a bit sooner than you expected, didn't he? Kelly frowned. That part of it worries me. There's no reason he should have hatched this soon, but it's been less than 18 hours since we thawed the egg out of the deep, frozen, suspended animation, and he seems to have particularly burst his way loose from the shell, as if he'd grown too big for it all of a sudden, and it was late in the hatching cycle instead of early. As if his growth had been dramatically accelerated somehow. It doesn't make any sense. Another exception? Troy asked. Life, Tarosh said, is full of exceptions. The fresh seal meat was brought into the room on a platter by Pete Mendoza, head cook for Deep Core Station. I chopped it up just like you said, miss, in little bite-sized pieces so he can swallow them whole. He offered her the platter. Kelly shook her head. You go ahead and do the honors. Mendoza took one of the red pieces of seal meat, blood dripping from it as he held it in the air above the glass case. Kelly opened the lid. The baby tyrannosaur, seeing the bloody meat, held its head back and opened its jaws wide, tiny teeth sharp and shining behind the heat lamps like miniature knives. Its long tail twitched in eager anticipation. Make 'em beg for it, Pete, Tom Callahan called out. Yeah, Pete, said Sal Vanetti. Make 'em do tricks. Hey, shut up, you dickheads. This ain't no Disneyland show. That thing's a real dinosaur. Show some respect, okay? Mendoza lowered the piece of meat cautiously towards the small gaping mouth. The tyrannosaur twitched its tail. Just let it drop, Kelly said. He can catch it. Mendoza hesitated. The baby T-Rex leaped suddenly, springing off the floor of the glass case and snatching the meat from Mendoza's finger. The startled cook pulled back his hand. Watch out, Pete! He almost ate you alive, man! Shut up, you bums! He turned back to the dinosaur and smiled. Got a real bounce to him, don't he? Paleontologists have speculated that the T-Rex must have been quite a jumper, Kelly said. Now we know for sure that's not true. Mendoza fed the infant tyrannosaur another piece of seal meat, then another. It swallowed each piece whole, then opened and closed its jaws as if licking its chops for more. Way to go, Pete! Just like feeding the squirrel, ain't it? Glad you don't feed us like that, Pete! As the tyrannosaur reached for more food, Mendoza pulled back the piece of meat quickly. The creature jumped for it, letting out an indignant little squawk as it missed. Ah! Whoa, Pete! Watch out there! You went and made it mad! It's gonna come after the whole platter now! Mendoza lowered the meat, then pulled it away quickly, and lowered it again, and pulled it away. It's not a good idea to tease him, Kelly said. The baby tyrannosaur cocked its head sideways, like a bird, and stared at the hand hovering above, beyond reach. Mendoza laughed and lowered his hand again. The tyrannosaur leaped. This time, it did not miss. Its tiny razor-sharp teeth bit a piece of meat and the flesh of Mendoza's thick forefinger, cutting through skin, fat and muscle, and finally bone. Mendoza screamed, "Ah!" and pulled back his hand. The first joint of his forefinger had been amputated, leaving a stump fringed by ragged flesh, white bones sticking up from the middle. Blood pulsed unevenly from the stump, splattering the glass case. "Goddamn little Pendejo!" Mendoza cried, voice shaking. "Bit off the end of my goddamn finger!" "Jesus, Pete! Tie it up to stop the bleeding! Somebody get the medic!" "Dave," Burke ordered, "take care of him." Dave, the station doctor, went over to Mendoza, pushing his way past the other men. "Goddamn little Pendejo," Mendoza muttered. He reached down with his good hand, clenched into a fist. The dinosaur opened its jaws and hissed at him, tail twitching again, but ominously this time, with a slow, sinuous movement to it, like a slithering of a snake. "No!" Kelly cried, grabbing the cook's hand. "Let go!" Mendoza shouted as he tried to pull free. "I'll teach that little Pendejo a lesson." "Easy," the doctor said, and moved Mendoza's hand away from the glass case. "Let's take a look at his finger, okay?" "Goddamn little." The tyrannosaur opened and closed its tiny jaws several times, as if smacking its lips over Mendoza's flesh and blood. Kelly shut the lid of the blood-splattered glass case, then turned to the men crowded around it. "Get out of here, all of you! This isn't some kind of freak show for your amusement. He's scared. He overreacted, but he was being teased. He's frightened now. Why don't you just get the hell out of here and leave him alone?" "Listen, Miss Bitch. Now that's enough, Callahan," Burke snapped. "All right, clear it out. Everyone except senior personnel. On the double." Troy started to leave with the others. "Hold on, Troy," Burke said. "I didn't mean you. I'm not senior personnel. I want you to stay. That's an order." "Yes, sir." When the others have left, only Burke, Tarosh, Kelly, and Troy remained. Adner and Zellman stepped out of the shadows, their faces blank and impassive as they stared at the blood-stained case. "That was a mess," Burke said. "Unfortunate," Tarosh agreed, "but it was his own fault. We're going to have to move this out of here, fly the animal and Miss Sawyer back to the base of King George. Let EPA worry about getting her back to the U.S. If we keep it here, it's going to prove a distraction to the men. Besides, Interesting as it may be, it has nothing to do with our mission. I disagree, Tarosh said. An event of this magnitude supersedes any set priorities. It becomes our new mission. You think Doe, back in Washington, will buy that? Before Tarosh could answer, Kelly said, Excuse me, I was told we couldn't even make radio contact with King George because of the storm. Now you want to fly me back over there? What's the real story anyway? It's almost always stormy south of 60 degrees, Burke said. Once in a while it gets bad enough to ground all the flights, but that's not the case today. We can fly you out, Miss Sawyer. She turned to Tarosh. That's not what you told me. What the hell's going on around here? Tarosh looked at her and said nothing. Obviously, Burke said, there's been a misunderstanding of some sort. We'll get men to help load up the animal in his cage. They'll have to be non-excitable types who can keep their mouths shut. Troy, I want you to select She's Not Leaving, Tarosh said, with a note of finality. Burke frowned. Come again? Miss Sawyer and the creature will remain with us. Just a minute, Tarosh. You don't mean I am head of this operation, appointed by the Secretary of the Interior through the Commissioner of the Department of Energy. I have the authority to change our priorities. That's what I'm doing. Miss Sawyer will not leave. Tarosh, this is ridiculous. We're all down here to investigate storage sites, not raise baby dinosaurs. What? Kelly turned from Tarosh to Burke. You're down here to investigate what? Burke looked away, unable to meet her stare. A most unfortunate slip of the tongue, Lyle, Tarosh said. But since she's going to be part of our little family from now on, perhaps it will do no harm to tell her the truth. You're looking for storage sites? Kelly demanded of Burke. Nuclear waste storage sites? Burke cleared his throat. She turned to Troy. That's what Jack Raines and his men were looking for when they found the egg, wasn't it? Possible locations for nuclear waste storage sites? It's our job, Miss Sawyer. Job my ass! Project Deep Core turns out to be nothing more than a dirty little scheme to pollute the last untouched wilderness on Earth with high-level radioactive waste. You make it sound like illegal dumping, Troy said. That's exactly what it is! Not quite. The ice shields form a type of natural seal around the waste deposits, helping to isolate them until your containers start to leak and you poison the entire Antarctic ice shelf. And then the Southern Ocean itself, the feeding ground for all the oceans in the world. You guys are a bunch of dirty, rotten bastards. And I do mean dirty. She turned back to Burke. I want to be taken to your radio operator right now. I'm reporting this immediately. Then I'm flying back to King George with the hatchling today. And once I get there, I'm closing down this whole illegal operation. Miss Sawyer, Tarosh said, you, she glanced at him, can take your authority and your orders and stuff them up your own secret storage site. Miss Sawyer, Tarosh said again. Don't anybody mess with him until I get back, she said, pointing to the glass case with the baby tyrannosaur. She turned and headed for the door. Tarosh nodded to his men. Zalman stepped forward and grabbed Kelly by both arms, jerking her to a halt. Hey, she cried. What the hell? Let me go. Let her go, Troy said, moving towards Zalman. Agnor stepped between them, arms raised for defense. Troy slowed down and stopped. All right, Tarosh, Burke said. This has gone far enough. I don't care if you were handpicked by the President of the United States himself. Nobody runs an Antarctic operation like with Gestapo tactics. Like this, you've been relieved of your command. Tell your goons over there to get out of here and let her go. I'm afraid I can't do that, Lyle. Then you can go to hell, buddy. I'll find the radio operator and get a hold of EPA on King George and the Department of Energy back in Washington while I'm at it. Burke started for the door. Lyle, Tarosh said. Stop right there where you are. Burke kept walking. Tarosh reached into his Endorak pocket and drew out an automatic pistol, a 1980s Soviet issue Makarov. This is a direct order, Lyle. I command you to stop. Burke was almost to the door. Tarosh fired. The sound of the gunshot exploded inside the storage depot, ringing off the steel waste containers stacked along the wall. The 9mm slug took Burke in the center of his back, throwing him against the door. He slid down the length of it, hands clawing at metal. He managed to turn around, a look of pain and astonishment on his face. Tarosh shot him again, twice. His body buckled against the door with the first shot, and the second. Then he lay still. Kelly stood watching in horror, Zalman holding her arms. "No," she whispered. Troy started over to where Burke lay on the door. "No, Troy," Tarosh said. "He doesn't need your help now." Troy stopped, glancing back at Tarosh. "What are you going to do? Shoot me too?" "Troy, no one wants to shoot anyone. Trust me on that." "Why did you shoot him?" "He disobeyed direct order. Twice. You saw that." Troy looked at Burke's dead body, then at Tarosh again. Kelly found her voice. "You can't get away with something like this. My people at the EPA will start asking about me if I don't report back. Someone from the Department of Energy will be asking about him before long, too. And then they'll send someone over here to check things out. And when they do, they're going to arrest you for murder." "Miss Sawyer," Tarosh said, "you've indulged yourself in enough histrionics for one morning. Don't you think? No one from the EPA will ask about you. They've already been informed that you met with a fatal accident on your journey to the interior. They were not pleased by the news, of course. But when we told them where to look for your body, trapped under tons of snow and ice, in an obscure valley somewhere near the Axel Himberg Glacier, they did not seem anxious to fly over and investigate." "You bastard!" As for poor Burke, the Department of Energy already knew that he was unstable and unreliable. That's why they assigned me as his superior. When they learned, as they will shortly, that he took his own life in a fit of despair, I'm sure they'll record that fact in their official records. Then forget about it. Kelly looked at Burke's body, blood pooling beneath it. No one will be coming here any time soon. The silence that followed his words was broken by the sound of claws scraping against glass. They all turned in the direction of the blood-stained case, where the baby Tyrannosaur paced anxiously back and forth as if looking for a way out. "What are you going to do about him?" Kelly asked. "Shoot him too? Then stuff him and sell him to the highest bidder?" "At last," Tarosh said, putting away the Makarov. "We get to a serious subject. This creature has now become our #1 priority here at Deep Core Station. Its care and feeding are of the utmost importance." "Then you're going to have to fly him back to the U.S., Kelly said, "because we can't have him here and give him the care that he needs." "You're right, Miss Sawyer. We can't. But you can." "What if I refuse?" Tarosh glanced at Burke's dead body, lying in a pool of blood against the door, and shrugged. "That would be unfortunate, but I'm sure we can find someone else to feed the creature. Someone with all 10 fingers still intact." Kelly glanced at him, but beneath her anger, she turned pale. "However," Tarosh said, "I don't think that will prove necessary. I'm offering you the chance of a lifetime, Miss Sawyer. The opportunity to watch a dinosaur grow from infancy to full maturity. How can you, as a biologist, possibly refuse?" Dinosaur maturation usually took about 5 years, as far as we know. That's a long time to wait, Tarosh. Somebody might come here to check things out before then. Perhaps it won't be necessary to wait that long. If you think we can somehow... She seemed to notice the waste storage containers. Then, for the first time, dark forms within dark shadows, stacked against the far wall like cenotaphs. What the hell are those? She asked, pointing to them. But before anyone could answer, she understood. Nuclear waste containers, she whispered. Good God! She turned to Tarosh, her voice rising with every word. You're storing the nuclear waste here? You're exposing all of us to potentially lethal doses of high-level radiation? Miss Sawyer, the containers are quite secure. They pose no immediate health risks to anyone. She looked at the baby tyrannosaur, stalking back and forth inside the blood-splattered glass case. What did you do, Tarosh? Expose the egg to high-level radiation? To make it hatch sooner? She looked up at him. That's how you plan to speed up his maturation, isn't it? Continue with high-level doses. Reduce 5 years to 5 weeks or 5 days, maybe 5 hours. Time is money, Miss Sawyer. You son of a bitch! You're endangering the survival of a scientific miracle. Why? So you can sell him as an exclusive to CNN? Live dinosaur found in Antarctica. That's it, isn't it? You think he'll bring you more money, full grown? Look more impressive on the cover of People? Some top-level consultant to the Department of Energy you are. You're nothing but a cleaned-up version of a back-alley drug dealer. Tarosh sighed, and then turned to Zalman and Agnor. Escort Miss Sawyer to the quarters we have arranged for her, would you please? And see that Troy gets back to work. What about that? Zalman said, nodding at Burke's corpse. Dispose of it and clean up the spillage. As they led Troy and Kelly off, Zalman gripping her right arm, she stopped before they reached the door and looked back. This isn't going to work out the way you think, Tarosh. There's something you haven't considered yet. If you speed up his maturation and don't kill him in the process, you're going to have a full-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex on your hands. Do you know what that means? Anywhere from 12 to 16,000 pounds of hot-blooded, fast-moving, predatory carnivore. It won't be like taking care of an elephant. Tyrannosaurs are hunters. When they flourished during the late Cretaceous, no mammals grew much larger than a present-day rabbit. No mammals back then could compete with something as large and ferocious as a full-grown 16,000-pound dinosaur. No mammal alive can compete with it now. We're mammals. Have you thought about that part, Tarosh? Zalman pulled her outside, and the door slammed shut behind them. Tarosh turned and looked at the blood-stained glass case. The Tyrannosaur no longer paced back and forth. It stood staring at him like a predator, stalking prey. You can hear them now.